What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the Only Sports Podcast Friday edition. I'm Will. That's Casino with his baby over there. How we doing today, Casino?
Doing pretty good. Just been cleaning up, pee stains from the dogs and from our daughter potty training. It's been great. We got one of those those little vacuum, the carpet cleaner vacuum things that has the water and all the things. I'm trying to think of the rug cleaners. They're great. They work actually really good. They work good. But yeah, everything's been good. Everything's been good. Haven't been able to work on my cholesterol at all, but things have been good. Just kidding. I just wanted to bring us all
What a
down.
mixed bag. Yeah, what a mixed bag you're giving us. But I'll tell you what's not a mixed bag, Casino. The Divisional Round playoffs, which is what we're here to talk about today.
Oh, okay. This isn't Casino's life story. Yay.
It was just sad. It was just sad.
I know.
But so
He's
we're
happy.
just gonna do what we do with all sad things, which is just ignore it, push it down, and move on. So let's move on to happier news. I'll edit in where you just have a single tear coming down your cheek as I said that.
Please do that. I mean, you don't even have to edit.
But we're talking about divisional. We're talking about the Divisional Round playoffs today. All the coaching news. We're gonna get to NBA and NHL at another episode, just because me and Casino want to do more research on both. But then we're also going to do a new segment where we just talk about the endless amounts of internet sports drama. I got like 4 stories here, which is we'll just touch on because they're all just fascinating. Some we've missed, some that are brand new. But also when we get to the coaches, breaking news as of when we're recording this, the Raiders are hiring Antonio Pierce as their head coach. So,
oh snap!
One more, yeah,
that's
one
live.
more.
You're getting this live. You're getting this news live, right?
I mean,
Remember
you'll get it 3 hours after it's live, but for us, it's live.
Right. Well, just all that shit that you gave me when I was watching the World Cup, and you're like, "They're not watching this live," and I'm like, "No, but they get our reactions live, so shut the fuck up." Sorry, earmuffs, kid.
Our reaction live to the Antonio Pierce news is good. Like, I think he earned another year. Like, why not?
Oh yeah, by far
but
he did a good job.
We're not here to talk about teams that did make the playoffs, Casino, because we're just talking about teams that did. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. And let's talk about, we have 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. Interesting that they didn't do a Monday night game, because I thought that's just was their MO now.
What we're supposed to do.
But
the super divisional round.
Yeah. No, it's not super, because it's only 2 days. It's only 2 days, no super whatsoever. But we start with the 10-7 Houston Texans at the 13. We were going to stop playing it safe and stop being giant vaginas when it came to picking games. Are you sticking with that and going with the Texans in this situation?
I am sticking with it.
You're going with the Texans?
I'm going to go with the Texans. Fuck it.
All right, make the case for how the Texans win this game.
How they win this game, or why I picked them?
I picked them. I mean, they should be one and the same.
Well, I picked them because I'm just gonna continue. I don't want to. I want to stick to my word. I said that I was gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm picking Texans. How they can do this is CJ Stroud in that offense. They've been playing very well. He looks poised under pressure, and to me, that is a good sign to a quarterback, young, old, whatever, going into the playoffs. If you are calm and relaxed behind center, and you don't get flustered, then I think you have a really good shot of at least competing. And I just feel like everybody's counting this Texans team out. It was kind of very similar to like the Eagles thing. Everybody was when they won theirs, they're underdog, underdog, underdog. How are they going to do this? They don't have the greatest quarterback out there. They have quarterback issues. And but I like CJ Stroud if they can continue playing to the level that they are. I mean, look what they did against that defense. I mean, the Ravens have an amazing defense. They do. They have a phenomenal defense. But if they're going to have to keep up, I think, with CJ Stroud and that offense. And we've talked about it. Lamar, he hasn't done anything in the playoffs. Granted, he's always been slightly banged up or the team's been banged up, but I can see this happening. And for that reason, I am in. See what I did there?
I do. So interestingly
Stop
enough,
spitting on me, kid. Kid
what
spitting
is
on
it?
me.
Lamar Jackson. Get ready, Casino. This is my hot take. This is my hot take. Are you ready? Because sports media is just built on hot takes. So get ready, Casino. That CJ Stroud game against the Browns was a better playoff performance in one game than Lamar Jackson has had in all of his playoff games combined.
Okay, so are you picking the Texans too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
I don't
You're
have
not crazy.
I don't have the casino size balls
I know.
that you do. But you look at Lamar Jackson, since he came in the league, he's played in 4 playoff games. He lost in 2019 against the Chargers, where he threw for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and just had a pretty mediocre game, right? His next game, so obviously they lost that one. 2020, he played against Tennessee, where he was 31 for 58, 52% completion percentage.
But that was that game that Henry just went off, right? Like where he was just bulldozing everybody. Yeah, like okay.
Yes.
That you got beat by one guy. You got beat by the biggest running back. He built like a fridge, running it down your throat. Like that one I can throw to this, if you can't stop a guy, you can't stop a guy. Like that's the defense not being able to stop Henry. Sorry. I watched that game and I remember watching that and it scared the hell out of me on how big this dude was.
Yeah. So those were his first 2 games against the Chargers and then the Titans. Two average games. I would argue the one against Tennessee, like you're saying, they lost out of his control, and he kind of just got those numbers in garbage time to try to come back because again, he did throw the ball 59 times. Now the last 2 games were again against Tennessee, which they won, where he had no touchdowns, an interception, and 179 yards, right? And then the last game he played in the playoffs was in 2021, and it was against Buffalo, where he went 14 for 24, 162 yards, and an interception. So what we've seen in his 4 playoff games is we'll take the Tennessee one out of it because, again, like you said, he threw the ball almost 60 times, and that was all just garbage time. Dak Prescott doesn't account for what the game actually was. The other 3 games, they were all in it, and he was mediocre to bad in literally all of them. The literal one playoff game we've seen from CJ Stroud, he had almost a perfect passer rating. So now we're going into this game where CJ Stroud just did something we rarely see in the playoffs, which is a rookie doing that, right? Especially in the playoffs. And then they're going into Baltimore against a Ravens team that we have seen do nothing in the playoffs with Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. So
the Tony Romo effect.
Yeah. My point being, the Ravens should win this game because throughout the regular season, we've seen them play their best games against the best competition, right? They've blown out Dallas. They blew out, not Dallas. They blew out the 49ers. They blew out the Lions. They blew out the Jack. Like every team they played with a winning record, they dominated. Now, that being said, from what we saw with the Texans last week, again, number one defense and an offense that up until that game was red hot. And then the defense is overshadowed by what Stroud did. But the Houston defense was all over Flacco.
They look phenomenal. They looked phenomenal.
He had no time to throw. Yeah, and then they obviously got the 2 pick sixes back to back, which is a Flacco thing. That's not going to be a Lamar Jackson thing. But that being said, going into this game, the Ravens top 6 in defense, top 6 in offense, the number 1 rushing attack. The Texans 12th in offense, 14th in defense, and they're ahead in passing. They're 7th compared to the Ravens at 21st. But again, that's because Lamar Jackson missed a couple of those games. So you have,
yeah, there you go.
So gotta get this throat moist. So you got, yeah. So you got a Ravens team that on paper should blow this Texans team away. Okay? Just based on everything we've seen. They should, but will they? And you're saying, so make the case for how the Ravens win this game, Casino.
How the Ravens win this game? They got Andrews is supposed to be back, right? He's been getting better. So that's going to be a huge safety blanket there for Lamar. If Lamar's not injured, he is one of the best, if not the best, dual quarterback to do it in the last 20 years. So that's that right there, right? That right there. I mean, even if the CJ Stroud is able to put up some numbers against this Baltimore defense, who's really, really, really good, but we already seen them play, the number 1 defense, and they destroyed them. Now it's, can you try to stop Lamar Jackson from just running it down your throat, or with the play action and, safety blanking it 5 yards down the slot to Andrews? Oh, I know you didn't like me talking good about the Ravens. You wanted me to talk bad. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Oh.
Well, also, the Ravens are going to get a little extra help because they have released Melvin Gordon and signed Dalvin Cook. So we've seen Dalvin Cook be a pretty damn good running back. And with him not being used all season, running behind this Ravens line that just makes anybody look like a star, that might also be another wrinkle to just control the clock against this Texans team. Now, these two teams did play each other in week 1 of this season, where the Ravens won 25-9, but still, even in that game, what is it? I just had it up here. Even in that game, Stroud was 28 for 44, 242 yards. And that was kind of the start of where it was like, oh, CJ Stroud looks kind of good. And then obviously he got better and better throughout the season. But yeah, I think when it comes to games like this, when it's two teams that feel kind of evenly matched on paper and they already lost to one of the other teams on they're playing like earlier in the season, I always like revenge game. I think I'm talking myself into the Texans, but
no, you've already done it. You've done it. You've already done it.
I know.
You're picking the safety blanket. You're picking the Mark Andrews of this pick.
I mean, I do like Lamar Jackson. I would like to see him win a Super Bowl.
and
I like CJ Stroud.
I've changed my mind on him as a thrower, so I'm all for it. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Lamar win it. I really wouldn't. I mean, I hate the Ravens with a passion, but I wouldn't mind seeing Lamar win.
What would be, with these 8 teams left, what would be your ideal Super Bowl matchup?
My ideal Super Bowl matchup?
Yes, the one, not about ratings, not about anything, the game you want to see the most. I think for me, it'd be Bills-Lions.
That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to say Bills-Lions. Yes, I know the Texans I'm having fun with them, and I like Lamar, but I've said it many times. I have a lot of friends who are Bills fans, and I honestly just kind of want to see some crying fans because it'd be Bills or Lions. Everybody's going to be crying in that stadium whether they win or lose. So I
Yeah.
think
A-
I think
And
that would be so much fun to watch.
it'll also be one of the or two of the most tortured fan bases in like NFL history where
Yeah.
one of them will finally win it. Obviously after the Lions never getting there and then the Bills getting there four
Four
times and
times in a
just
row and
getting
losing.
annihilated three of those four times. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
dude.
that's
That's
dude,
so that story is so rough. That's
I
so rough. I
still
couldn't even
say
imagine that as a fan.
the Four Falls of Buffalo, that ESPN 30 for 30, I still say that's right up there with The Last Dance as one of the best sports documentaries I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yeah, because it hits you.
God,
It
that one
hits you
makes you
hard in
cry,
this, dude.
dude.
It does. It
Oh,
does. So that yeah, Bills Lions because again, I know a lot of for some reason I know a lot of Lions and Bills fans, but whatever. Um, that is what it is. But that would be my ideal one to watch, personally.
yeah.
If it is Chiefs Niners, I don't think I'll watch the Super Bowl.
Well, let's nice Segu Casino because
Segu.
let's
We're gonna
move
make shirts.
on.
Let's get our shirts made. Let's find
I
shirts.
do
I
like
know a shirt
Segu.
guy. I
I
told
do
you
like
I
it.
like it. I got a shirt guy. We'll make it
Yeah.
happen.
We don't even need to sell shirts. We can just make two shirts just for you
No,
and I
that's
to
what we're
wear
gonna
on
do.
the
We're gonna make
podcast.
2 shirts. Yes.
Speaking of 49ers casino, let's talk. You lost your baby.
Thank you.
Let's
That was
talk
funny.
about the 9-8 Green Bay Packers traveling to the 12-5 San Francisco 49ers. Who you got in this one, casino?
Oh man. No matter how much I want to pick the hot Green Bay Packers, especially since they went up against that Dallas defense, we've talked all year. And I was thinking about this one long and hard. That's why you got a sore throat. But the Green Bay Packers, they could do it. Jordan Love could upset again. However, San Francisco, they're not frauds. They're good. They are really, really good. They got blown out by the Ravens, and the only struggles they had at the beginning or middle of the year is when we both know that Purdy had a concussion and they were playing him. Um, that I mean, all that's our speculation, but it's true. I guarantee you it's true. Um, but I can't see the Packers. I would love it, but I would have a hard time seeing the Packers beating the Niners as well, who aren't frauds in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
It's tough. I mean, I would love it. I would love Jordan Love to come in. I like your hot take from last week. Um, but especially if they get the ball first, they go down and score. But I just don't think they're going to be able to stop this team from outscoring them, essentially. Even if Jordan Love puts up another almost perfect passer rating, goes down. Um, and I know the Ravens to me are a better team than the Niners. I would pick the Ravens over the Niners. And so it's funny I say I picked the Texans over the Ravens, and here I'm picking Niners over. It's just going by the team, what I feel like the team is at. I mean, this is a great young team for the Packers. They've already exceeded expectations, like wildly exceeded expectations, which is awesome for them. Being the youngest team in the league, they're crushing it. So winning on the road in Dallas, like that right there and playing well, making the playoffs, that you can end your season on that. I know you don't want to, but you could be happy doing that. And then going and losing to the Niners, that would be a legitimate, a legitimate way to lose. But I would, and I am going to pick the Niners, but I would absolutely love to see the Packers win because if the Packers win and the Lions win, the Packers got to go into Detroit for the conference championship game, and that would be out fucking standing. I would love every second of that. Um, Again, I just don't think the Packers are going to be able to beat the Niners. I think the Niners are too loaded in this matchup, particularly. I and I do think the experience does come down to it.
yeah, as much as I feel like I can convince myself or make a compelling argument to myself to pick the Texans over the Ravens, much like you said, more so than I can for the Packers over the 49ers. Now, there is that, familiarity with Shanahan and then Matt LaFleur because obviously they're friends. They've worked on the same coaching staffs together. There's that kind of rivalry. I do think the way you talk yourself into the Packers winning this game is a thing we've talked about in the past, which all the Packers have to do to kind of rattle the cage of the 49ers is just get an early lead, right? We've talked about it multiple times where it's the 49ers lose a shockingly high amount of games for how good that team is when all they are down is by one score. So they
Right.
are, and we know from obviously I'm a 49ers hater, but it's just fact that Kyle Shanahan is one of the biggest choke artists in terms of coaching in the most recent years. I mean, look at the Atlanta game. Even in that Kansas City Chiefs game, they had a 10-point lead in that game, much like my Eagles did, and the Chiefs came right back on them. So, yeah, again, all you have to do with this 49ers team is get ahead, and have a way, way better shot of winning than if you're, in a tie game where they score first. So if we see a repeat of last week where Packers just go right down the field and score, then we might be seeing a repeat of last week where it's just, this Packers team all of a sudden is up 14-0 on the Niners. And then it's like, what is going on here? And then me and you are just going to be messaging each other 50 million times being like, what's happening? What's happening? And freaking out. But that's again, if this turns into a shootout, I think the Niners win because the Niners are just have more weapons, more firepower. I don't know how you stop McCaffrey. And then with the Packers, they're just doing it like you said, one of the youngest teams ever to make the playoffs. I don't know who they have on offense. I don't know who they have on defense. They're just getting it done. And we've seen 49ers or not 49ers. We've seen the Cowboys be frauds in the past in the playoffs. As far as the 49ers go, we haven't really seen them be frauds in the playoffs, right? The one year
Right.
they were cooking, they went to the Super Bowl, they lost to the Chiefs, but everybody pretty much in the playoffs loses to the Chiefs. And then we saw last year where Purdy got knocked out and then they just got steamrolled by a team that was the best in the league and just kind of rolling. So I don't think those are bad losses because again, I just made fun of them for the Kansas City loss, but again, same thing happened to my team. That pretty much happens to every team when you play Kansas City. It's an anomaly. So when you're
I wonder
talking,
why.
yeah, when you're talking about the 49ers, they have a resume where they're built for games like this. It's at home. That crowd's going to be fucking on fire. Like, I don't know. I just think that you're going to know by the end of the first quarter if the Packers are going to win this game because if they're in a lead, if they're up 10-0, I would do an in-play money bet to be like Packers are winning this game. If it's 7-7 going into the second quarter, I'm taking 49ers all day. Like that's just how I view this game. So both you and I are picking the Niners on that one. Uh Next up, Casino. Let's move to a game I
Whoa,
know.
whoa. Let's move to
Yes. Let's move to Detroit just
move
for
to.
this. Yeah. Let's move to Detroit just for this Lions playoff run. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. The 9-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Detroit to face the 12-5 Detroit Lions. Who you got in this one, Casino?
Lions all day. I know the Bucks are playing well. And Baker had an absolute phenomenal game, but having another home game in Detroit, I mean, the Rams had to burn 2 timeouts because that place was so fucking loud. It ain't gonna happen for the Bucks. And if it does, great job, Baker, because I love him. I, I, I've always made fun of him, but I never disliked the guy. But I've always made fun of him when he was on the other team. But when he's gone to the Bucs, I actually like him. I think he's kind of turned his career around. But I'm all for this Dan Campbell Lions team. They're my Super Bowl pick. I'm going to be cheering. I'm going to be picking them till the end. So you can just mark that down. Lions for Casino all the way through. It's going to happen. Um, even if they have to go into uh, San Francisco and play there, I don't care. The Lions, man. It's the Lions all day. I love it. They're super hot. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is super pissed that he got snubbed. I mean, again, I don't think the Pro Bowl means worth a shit, but I think it's bothering him. And I don't think it's just the media hyping it up. I think he's like laughing, haha, the media finds this funny. I'll roll with it. But I do think truly inside, I think he's like pissed off.
Yeah. I do think the thing that's being underlooked about Baker Mayfield is in the playoffs, he's actually pretty damn good.
No,
He's
I
2
like it. Let's go.
he's in his career, he's 2-1 in the playoffs, with a 7-1 touchdown to interception ratio and 102 .7 passer rating. So I mean, small sample size with 3 games, but again, we've seen there's much more fawned over quarterbacks who have much, much worse stats in the playoffs than what I just read off for Baker Mayfield. I mean, we just
Mhm.
talked about Lamar Jackson, who you put his numbers against Baker, and Baker almost doubles him in passing touchdowns compared to especially touchdown to interception ratio. But yeah, I think what would scare me is the reason the Bucs were able to annihilate the Eagles they did were twofold. One, the Eagles had given up for a month and it was a dumpster fire, and they hit obviously a surging Bucs team at the right time.
Mhm.
Surging is generous because of how their regular season ended, but still with Baker, blah, blah, blah. Twofold is the Eagles have a really bad defense. And what the Lions and the Eagles, the only thing they share in common at the moment is both of their defenses are pretty damn bad. Like the last couple months or the last month of the season, the Lions pass defense is 31st in the league. The only one that had a worse pass defense was the Philadelphia Eagles. And we just saw what Baker and this offense did. And when I've seen, I don't know, when I just watch Lions game, it feels like you can pass on them, you can run on them. Their defense is just not holding up to what their mentality has always been with Dan Campbell, which is, like the I'm going to bite kneecaps and all that kind of stuff. So the case for the Buccaneers is they're playing a very similar defense to the team to a team we just saw them put 38 up on.
That's
So
true. That's true. But they're also playing a team that's going to be staying on that field on offense a lot. They're going to start wearing down that Tampa defense. The Lions are going to be on the field for a very long time. Every drive, they're going to go down. I the Eagles, they didn't even get a touchdown in that game. The Lions are going to be much different. I think that's where the factor is going to be is time and possession. I think the Lions are definitely going to hold down at home, and I think that the fans are going to make it tough for Baker Mayfield to get some plays off when he really needs to. Again, look what happened to Stafford. He's a great quarterback as well. The Rams were a good surging team as well, and they couldn't hang in Detroit. Well, they did. They hung in there till the very end. However, yeah, flippity flappity. But no, I see your point, and I like Baker, and I like what he's doing. I mean, that's a great take about the defense, but I just can't see the Lions losing to this Bucs team at home when they've already hit the marks they wanted to hit for the season, and now everything is gravy. They're excited. They're foaming at the mouth to continue this Lions run.
yeah. Also the Lions get back CJ
Because
Gardner
okay, let
Green.
me ask you this: like, so the Bucks
Go on.
win. Say the Bucks
Uh-huh.
win and the Niners win. Do you really want to see the Bucks go into San Fran? That's basically just going to give San Fran the
Oh
win.
no. I'll be rooting for the Lions because much like you, I like Tampa Bay and Baker, but I think the Lions are just a much more interesting team. And with everything I said before, the only the reason why I think the Bucs lose this game, because I am picking the Lions. I was just trying to make a case for the Buccaneers. I think the Lions win this game because the Buccaneers are 32nd in run, right? So in their rushing attack. So if, let's say, they're tied or they have a lead in late in this game, in order to run out the clock or burn off time to make sure the Lions do not get the ball back, they're going to have to pass. So when
True.
you know the team you're playing is one dimensional, that means instead of worrying about how they mix up the run, right, which makes the Ravens so dangerous, because the second you start relying on the run, all of a sudden Lamar Jackson picks you apart for 400 yards, right? So it's like with this Buccaneers team, they can't run the ball. Baker, what is it? Is going to have to throw it every down. So then that changes your coverage, how you approach the game. That's not going to be an issue when it comes to, again, running out the clock. So I think the Lions, on the other hand, really good passing attack, really good rushing attack. And if they can just do a bend, don't break defense, which you talk about all the time, like this should be an easy win for them. They did play earlier this season, and the Lions won 20-6. Obviously, that was in
It's gonna be
October,
tough to
so
score
things
on this team,
are
I
different.
think.
Yeah. So I think this is maybe a 10-point game in Detroit's favor, but I think this is going to be closer than people are.
Well, I'm not calling it a blowout.
Yeah. You think
I,
any of the games this week go blowout? I think maybe 49ers Packers if it just swings a certain way.
yeah, sure, but I'm gonna say no. I think this is gonna be much different than last week.
Yeah. I just
I think these
hope,
games are
again,
gonna be
now
a
that,
lot. I think these games are gonna be played a lot tighter. Obviously, you're getting closer, so you're gonna play a little tighter. Um, and for those teams that did get the bye, I I do like when teams get the bye. I always like when the Patriots get the bye, but it always worried me because I could feel like teams would get flat.
yeah.
They get rested. They're not ready for it, and they're not playing as aggressive or as tight, whichever way it needs to be that they need to be. They just kind of go out and play instead of sticking to their guns in one direction.
Yeah, I agree. I think both you and I have this same mindset where when our teams aren't in it, we just want interesting games, right? Even
Oh
if
yeah,
we're rooting for one team or the other, I'd much rather have just good games and all the teams I want to win lose than all the teams I want to win and they're all blowouts and it's all just boring. And heading into our last game, Casino, on the docket, it is the most anticipated game of anybody because finally the Bills get a
can't
home
wait.
game in this series. The 11-6 Kansas City Chiefs travel to Buffalo to play the 11-6 Buffalo Bills. Who you taking in this game, Casino?
Bills. I'm taking the Bills. I will tell you why. Um, every from what I can recall, every playoff game between these two teams in the recent years have been in Kansas City. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Um,
Yes.
but Kansas
No, you're right.
going through Arrowhead is tough. It's tough to go to that play. I mean, they still hold the record. They had it taken away from Seattle by Seattle for a moment, but then they took it back as the loudest stadium in the league. Kansas City is a tough place to go and play. They both play in cold conditions. That's not going to be a factor. But I think Buffalo finally going to play against the Chiefs in Buffalo. I think this is huge. Really think that the tides turn to Buffalo. I like the more, as of late, consistent play of the Buffalo Bills. During the most of the regular season, they were very, hey, they're hot, they're cold, they're hot, they're good against good teams, bad against bad teams, and then vice versa. You just never know what you're going to get week to week with them. It seems like they have turned that around. I don't see this Chiefs defense being able to have Josh Allen turn the ball over, the turnover machine, Josh Allen, turn it over enough to lose this game. Again, we saw what the Chiefs have. We know that they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Kelsey, and then now they have Reese. You stop that, I'm not really worried about anything else. I think the Bills can kind of handle their rushing game. Um, that's just me personally. So double Reese, double Kelsey, vice versa on every other play or however you want to run it, however you want to run your schemes. But one of those guys be doubled every single time. And I think you have a legitimate shot of beating the Chiefs, as long as the refs don't help it out. But we'll see. Somebody sent me a meme. It was really, really fucking funny. Kansas City, it was some guy making a weird face, and it was like the league realizing they're having to pick between Kansas City or Buffalo next week. I thought it was fucking hysterical. And it was like, oh no, what do we do? But I'm going to pick the Bills. I want the Bills to go through. I'm over the Chiefs, and some of it might be I'm just so over the Chiefs. And I didn't, I originally I was over the Chiefs because I didn't want them to be another dynasty like the Pats had. But then I got over the Chiefs real fast after the Patrick Mahomes crybaby incident and Andy Reid defending him. Like, sorry, Andy Reid, I can forgive you eventually, I'm sure. Mahomes, never. Like, just stop. Just stop. So I want the Bills to win this game so bad. And ouch, that hurt. But I think that they could pull it off. Your thoughts? I think playing at home is the big key to this.
Yeah,
You're picking the Chiefs. It's okay.
I'm picking the Chiefs. But as you know, a
5-game win streak versus a 2-game win streak.
So
the
earlier
Bills
in this
are
season,
hot. The Bills are hot right now. I'm just gonna make you
so
feel
hot
like
right now.
Yeah, they're so hot right now.
Yeah, but
The Chiefs
earlier
barely
in the
beat
season,
the Chiefs barely beat the Chargers. They barely beat the Bengals. They got beat by the Raiders. They beat the Patriots by 10 only. And before that, they lost to the Bills. And then yes, they did just blow out the Dolphins, but the Dolphins gave up. So you put those teams where you lose or almost lose, and then you go against the Bills who come on. Don't do this stupid game, this stupid thing.
Yeah, but
Continue.
see, if we're gonna go by those metrics, the Bills lost to the Bengals, they lost to the Broncos, they lost to the Eagles, they lost to the Patriots. October, November, December, they all have bad losses.
Okay, and then from there, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Chargers, they beat the Patriots, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Steelers. Like, that's a much better, almost a month and a half. That's a good amount of time. We trying to go back past a month and a half. People have figured shit out by then. So trying to go back all the way to October, we're in fucking January, man. Like, you're closer to the beginning of the season than you are the end of the season. Like, the Bills, that's what I was saying. The Bills, they figured it out. I like the teams that they have played and they have beaten against the Chiefs last few games, and a lot of those games I feel like that they were getting favorable calls. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. If you look back at when these two teams played earlier in the season, on December 10th, obviously it was in Arrowhead. The yards, almost identical. Passing yards, almost identical. Rushing yards, almost identical. The Chiefs lost a fumble. The Bills didn't. Both Mahomes and Josh Allen threw an interception. Time of possession was a difference of 10 minutes, and then the Bills won by 3. Right? So both of these,
what I was talking about, the Bills running game, I'm much better than the Chiefs running game. I think that they can handle the ball. They can take possession away from Patrick Mahomes. I think you're wild to pick the Chiefs in this game. I mean, I know they're the Chiefs and they find ways to win. They feed the zebras carrots and shit, but whatever.
Uh, I do I do think my ideal matchup for next week for the AFC Championship, I would love to see Bills Ravens because I just think those are two teams that feel fresh in terms of going to the Super Bowl with the makeups of
And
the
the
teams
Texans
they have.
don't?
Yeah, but I think the Texans, again, I think they can get better than they are right now. I think Bills and Ravens are kind of topping out at what they can be, right? So I think the Texans can be even better and be, a 1 seed in the next couple years, but Ravens and Bills, we said it for the Bills this year. It was like Super Bowl or bust, and then their cap space and everything's going to catch up to them. I mean, they almost got derailed this season by injuries catching up to their older players. Same with the Ravens. Like both these teams have been snake bitten by injuries. They're getting guys back, as we talked about with the Ravens getting Mark Andrews. So, as far as the Chiefs go, yes, it's been a down year for them. Rashid Rice is catching on at the end of the season. Travis Kelce he's really hit or miss when the past couple of years he was just automatic. So I don't know. I just again, this
It's that
feels
good
like
Swift,
yeah,
I was
Swift time. Yeah.
yeah, there it is.
It's
Getting Swifty
but
with it.
I don't know. This is one of those things where going into this weekend, all the picks are obvious, right? All the picks are obvious where it's like, of course the Ravens win. Of course the Niners win. Of course the Lions win. Of course the Bills win. All those are the home teams. And we just go, of course they all win. And then last week, every home team won except one. And that game was shocking. And then also, the Texans won, which was shocking against that Browns who were on the road, but still they were favored. So it just doesn't play out how it's supposed to on paper. There's always at least one surprise. So of all the teams that we're talking about when it comes to surprise, uh the Texans are an unknown. The Packers are an unknown because they haven't been here before. And last week they kind of exploded on the scene. But how many times, especially in football, have we seen a team, a player do something great one week? They have all this hype going into the next week, and then it just doesn't happen. We see that all the time, all the time. So now going into this game, the hyped up teams are the Ravens, the Niners, the Lions, and then the Bills. Out of those four, I've seen the Bills, have all this momentum, have all this hype, and then just be let down by a shitty call here by the 24 seconds or whatever the fuck it was in Kansas City. I've
Yeah.
seen this story before. That's the one of the main reasons I'm
But
worried about the
you see that
Lions.
happening in Buffalo this time around? Those refs would
Yes.
not make it out of the no. Those refs would not make it out of the stadium.
But
Those Bills, that Bills Mafia, they're surprisingly, they're nifty. They would build a giant snow wall so those refs couldn't get out, and then they would all just be lined up with snowballs, laced with like
but
Motel
this is
cocktail. I don't know.
you're making a good point without realizing you're making it, because that call that cost the Chiefs that game was in Kansas City. So now that call is going to be talked about. It's going to be discussed. It's going to be replayed all week, which in my mind makes me go, oh, the NFL is going to favor the Chiefs more. So as like a make right, or as like a, well, you thought we fucked you over last time. Now we're like doing the opposite. So you can't be mad at us. Like, again, after that game, Mahomes criticized the NFL and the refs. Andy Reid did, players did, like everybody got fined. That was like a national story. So now one of two things is going to happen. This game is either going to be called right down the middle where they're going to let everybody get away with everything, or it's going to be called in the Chiefs' favor to be like, see, when you play the Bills, we don't have any favorites.
Yeah,
Now, of
but
what we've seen in the past, which do you think is more likely? The refs favoring one team or calling it even straight down the middle? It's favoring one team, and we've seen the Chiefs get away with just
mhm,
absolute dog shit,
yeah,
right? So it's just like There is
But
going
it's
to be a
already
call in this game that
it's
will be
I
discussed
understand,
all week.
and I understand. So that one that call that got everybody all up in arms, and you're saying they're trying to correct it.
I think they're going to overcorrect.
Okay, do you think they're going to overcorrect, or do you think if they do that, it's going to be so on the nose that it's going to hurt the NFL, or do you think the NFL just doesn't give a shit if they blatantly? I mean, they've already done it with that Dallas night. Do you think they just blatantly get it wrong on purpose, and it's just like, well, it's over now?
See, I could see it playing both ways, but I also just think, again, the Chiefs in the playoffs, the Bills have never beat them in the playoffs. So there's that weighing on them.
Yeah,
There's
but
the
the Chiefs were
revenge
never
game
this
factors.
bad in the playoffs.
Yeah, but they've also never had this good of a defense. I don't know.
But
See, I
the
can.
defense thing doesn't matter. Remember, we've talked about that. How is Mahomes having such a shitty year and this team not doing as well as they could when they have the best defense they've ever had? It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, as
I mean, you
again,
brought
I will be
that
rooting
up.
for the Bills. I
That's
will be
fine. I
rooting
get that.
for the Bills with
But
every fiber of my being.
I get that. But you're saying that, they got the better defenses. No, I mean, you've talked about how that doesn't matter this year with the
Well, I
Chiefs
mean, we
because
saw the
they still
Texans
suck.
and Browns. That didn't matter, right? Like, yeah. And when we talk about these two teams, just to put it in perspective of how similar they are.
I'm feeling 100% coming my way, by the way.
100% like on picks.
I'm picking him. I'm picking him right.
So for Casino, he picked Texans, 49ers, Bills, Lions. I am picking Ravens, 49ers, Chiefs, Lions. So our differences are the Ravens, Texans, and the Bills Chiefs game. Now, going into this, to put the bow on the Chiefs Bills, Chiefs are 9th overall in offense, Bills are 4th. Chiefs are 2nd overall in defense, Bills are 9th. Chiefs are 6th overall in passing, Bills are 8th, and then Chiefs are 19th in rushing, Bills are 7th. Obviously, because their leading rusher, I think this is the first year that Josh Allen has been on this team where he's not the leading rusher, right? It's Cook, but he's, pretty damn close. But I just hope it's a fun game. I hope it's an interesting game. I hope there's no bullshit calls that we have to talk about afterwards. But of my picks, Casino, Texans or Ravens, I'm fine with either. I just like Lamar Jackson, but I also like this Texans team. I pray to the Lord the Packers pull the upset on the 49ers. That would just be, with how much shit they talk and their fan base talk.
Would you become a side Packers fan if they take out Dallas and the Niners?
Oh, dude, I would wear a Packers jersey on the next podcast if that happened. Oh, I would love it so much. The Chiefs Bills, again, I'm with you. Chiefs Bills and Bucs Lions. I'm worried about the Bills and the Lions just because of all the stuff we talked about, but I will be rooting hardcore for both the Lions and the Bills just because I think a Bills Lions Super Bowl would
But you
heal
don't believe in
America.
them.
It would
But you
heal
don't
America.
but you don't believe in them.
It's not that I don't believe in them. I'm worried about them. Much different, Casino. Much different. Again, I was worried about my Eagles, and look what happened to them.
I don't believe in them.
I'm a worried.
But you don't believe in them.
Worried person.
No, but you don't believe in them.
That has been our divisional round picks. Casino won the wild card round by a score of 3-2. This week, we could potentially tie, or one of us could get both our picks right. So we will see. Let's move on, Casino. There was some coaching news for teams outside of the playoffs. The first two being my sister has my son, and she just texted me, your son had an accident, so we were on our way back. No more context to that. I don't know what that means, so that's great. But to talk about the coaches, Casino.
Do you need to step aside and find out what that means?
No, I'll just text her. Is losing an arm, would that be considered an accident? Losing a leg? I don't think she'd word it like that, so I think it's fine. Yeah. But Mike McCarthy, shockingly, is being brought back with the Dallas Cowboys in the same division, the NFC East. Nick Sirianni also apparently being brought back. Thoughts on, let's start with the Cowboys move first, Casino. Thoughts on basically just running this same team back and just trying again.
No,
Thoughts?
because they were frauds this year. I think it's bad. I mean, McCarthy's. I don't like him. I didn't like him in Green Bay. I don't like him in Dallas. I I just don't think he has I just don't think he has enough anymore. Like I think he's coached out, man. I don't know, man. I'm over McCarthy. If I was Dallas, I'd move off. Dak, I would move off. I know he has great some games, but I would honestly move off. I mean, you finally did give Dak that contract, but even before that, you were struggling to give him that contract. I I think that
He will.
I think that whole organization, if they just run it back, they're gonna end up doing the same thing. And they might even win. They might win a wild card game. They might win the division, but I don't see anything past that, man. I just don't.
See now, we always say, or we as in like people who talk about sports, always talk about McCarthy winning the Super Bowl and how that's a feather in his cap and all that stuff, which it is. But also to
It's
put it in
like,
perspective, he won that Super Bowl in 2010.
yeah, I mean that's
2010.
what I'm saying. Like it's past the time, man.
Yeah, it is 2024. That
That's
is
like saying that
14 years ago.
yeah, that's like saying Drew Brees being back, like he's retired, like he's done because he did it back in the day. He won his Super Bowl and he left. He's done. He realized it's past his time. I know coaching is different than playing, but I just don't feel like he has it anymore. I just don't.
Yeah, and also I feel like so for to
Did
tie
you get?
this in with the Nick Sirianni thing, it's like everybody knew going into that game the Eagles something was off for a month, right? And it was a weird vibe, and they were winning games in ways they never have lost before, or they were losing games in ways they never lost before, and the vibe was off, and it was weird, and the play calling, blah blah blah. So when they lost to the Tampa Bay, it was like this was a slow moving train we saw coming a month in advance. With the Cowboys, they were going into that game with all the momentum in the world, right? And everybody was like, they're at home. They fell into the number 2 seed. Their only threat is the 49ers. They're going to roll everybody. Like they already beat the Lions. They already beat the Eagles. They already beat all these other teams. They're going to get revenge on the 49ers. There were how many talking heads in the sports media world just being like, this is a team that is going to the Super Bowl, like full stop, right? And then from
Because
the
it's one of those things.
first,
If you don't pick the Cowboys, if you're in that media and you don't pick the Cowboys, you're going to be a laughing stock. I mean,
yeah,
you laugh at me all the time. So I mean, when I picked Green Bay, you were like,
yeah.
so
Well, but then again, I did go back and listen to us predicting that game. We both had the conversation where we were like, this Cowboys team always shits the bed. I think it's going to be next week when they do it.
oh
And you
stop.
were like, I
No.
think they do it in the wild card round. And I was like, yeah, probably. And we both, but see, the point is, we never for a second thought this team would click into place and be on their way to the Super Bowl. We knew it was either this week or next week where they were
Out.
going to do something to fuck up their chances. And
Yeah.
then it happened in the wild card round. And my thing is from the get-go of that game, CeeDee Lamb was weird. Mike McCarthy was weird. Dak Prescott
I
was
know, but you
weird. They
still
all
picked them.
had this weird
I still won the
energy.
wild card weekend. It's fine, whatever.
There you
I mean,
go.
stop trying. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you were right. I mean, you were right.
But no,
but
yeah, but
you
I'm
weren't right.
saying from the get-go of that game, all of them had a weird vibe. Nobody looked like they wanted to be there. Micah Parsons goes out with like an injury and then he comes right back in the game. Like it was just weird. But I think you get the gist of what we were saying. I think we both agree it's insane to bring back this entire Dallas coaching staff team when
And not change
everybody
something.
knows what they are. Yeah, without
not
changing
change
literally anything.
Something.
Well, also, the cap hit for Dak Prescott next year is $55 million. $55 million. Again, end of the first half of that game, if it wasn't for that touchdown, they got 3 penalties at 0 to try to get. He would have been what? He had like 24 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdown, and one of the worst pick sixes in 3-man coverage, 4-man coverage around his one guy that he just throws. Again, trying to force the ball to CeeDee Lamb with 4 guys around him.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's what you get with playoff McCarthy, playoff Dak Prescott, everything. And then with Nick Sirianni,
you just can't trust Dak.
Yeah. And then with Nick Sirianni, at least he's got that team to a Super Bowl, lost both of his coordinators, started 10-1, had a rough end of the season. But if they can get him better coordinators, like I've already seen him take a team to the Super Bowl. I know him and that team, and Hurts is capable of it. With the Cowboys, you haven't seen them get farther than a divisional round loss. So to run back the 2 teams and act like it's similar, it's not. We've seen the other team go toe to toe with the best team in the league and the Chiefs and come within a dumb penalty away from winning that like game. So I'm fine with him coming back. Just make it be the Eagles next year need to be like Epstein Island Casino. And that's pairing the young guys with old guys. Right? So we need to get old coordinators in there.
Oh, there it is, everybody. Now we are flagged. Well, now I can spend more time with my kids, so that's great.
Just not on the island. Dear God, not on the island.
God,
but
Jesus.
That's I'm not saying anything happens after that. I'm just saying pair the old with the young, right? And then just play football. That's where the analogy ends. But let's move on, Casino, to another coach, which is Bill Belichick has now interviewed, is it 2 or 3 times with the Atlanta Falcons?
I know of 2, unless he's done another in the past like day. But he's going to go to the Falcons, which I think is really funny.
That is, first off, it's hilarious. Second off, I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, who's great. He talks about things that aren't sports because we're obviously the only sports podcast. But he was just happening to talk about Bill Belichick because he's a big Patriots fan. And he made a good point, which I didn't think of and I haven't heard anywhere else. Bill Belichick is still technically a Patriot. So they would have to trade to get him. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Falcons would trade their first round pick to get Bill Belichick to be their next head coach? Because I kind of think they would.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. I would love it. But I mean, and with Belichick out and Gerard Mayo in, and I don't know who's going to be GM and calling the shots on the things, but they may actually not trade away their first round picks.
Oh, that's true. For the first time in what, like 20 years, you might actually have a first round pick.
Oh my gosh. We need some players. They need some players, and not even just like the quarterback and some offensive weapons. Belichick whiffed on both the punter and the kicker this last year.
Yeah. Which is usually things. And again, his downfall was, remember, there was always that joke or the meme where it's like, everybody's at the combine and Bill Belichick is working out some 7th round lineman in the rain. And then he finds like a gem, right? And he would always find like these guys who everybody was like, he's done, like a Randy Moss, and bring him in. And then they peak. Like that hasn't happened for 3-4 years now. So I feel like everybody
you want to play center in the NFL? No, You're my next punter.
And then it would just work. Well, when that stopped working, all of a sudden the Patriots weren't a very good team. So now your team
worked for 20 years. So
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like it eventually those methods run out, and then here you are. But him in Atlanta, I mean, it just, to me, it doesn't fit at all.
It's great.
It seems like, because remember,
I think he's just trying to win that record. I think he just wants to play enough to win the record, and he's going to leave.
But with the Falcons, how are they any different than the Patriots team last year?
They
They
won a
were a
couple more
really good
games.
defensive team.
They
They
won a
have
couple
no
more games.
quarterback.
That's it right there. Defensive team. He wants to go to a team that has a good defense.
Yeah, but wouldn't he rather want to go to the Chargers where the offense is already figured out and he can just focus on the defense? Like,
Yeah,
he's
but that
just
means
going
he
to
has to
have
do
the same
work.
issues.
He just means he just has to do work.
Yeah, I don't know. We run out of time. We will do our gossip talk.
Bill
On next
O'Brien
Oh,
went over to the Ohio State.
and we already did the Antonio Pierce name.
And
So
I'm
Bill
very,
O'Brien,
very sad because as my Patriot friends chat said, oh, here Josh McDaniels coming back for OC, and I'm nope.
that was going to be my next question
Dude,
with Bill O'Brien
I
going
will
to Ohio State.
I will throw this new laptop that I bought for this year out the window.
If he's your offensive coordinator in Atlanta, it's going to happen. 100%.
No, I don't
would
care.
bet
I
on
don't want him. I don't want him to come back to the Patriots.
Oh, to the Patriots. I thought you meant Bill Belichick's going to bring him with him to Atlanta.
No, I don't care. If Bill Belichick leaves, I don't give a shit. I don't care where he goes. I don't care about Bill anymore. He's out. My boy, Gerard Mayo is in. 37 fucking years old. Gerard Mayo. Let's go. I want him. Let's go.
Damn.
I'm excited.
And then for the last marquee, especially with Antonio Pierce signing with the Raiders, last marquee job that appears to be still open, Casino, is the Chargers. Do you think that's a Vrabel landing spot? Do you think it's a Harbaugh landing spot? Or you think they're going to go somebody else?
Harbaugh's already in talks of extending his contract out there in Michigan. I think it's Vrabel. I think Vrabel goes.
I think it is too.
I would love that. I would love that because the Chargers have been right there, but we've said it. They should be good, but it's been the coaching, the owners, like the GM and all that. You get rid of that and you bring in Vrabel, who still has some of the Belichick way and, AKA being a little bit more of a hard ass, but yet he can relate to players a little bit more because he played. I think that would be an amazing spot for Vrabel. I really do. I think he can come in there and start crushing it because, I don't like that they got rid of him in Tennessee, but if they totally revamp the Chargers and they get the right personnel in the right spots, that team can actually be good. They should be good.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then as far as the Eagles, just get me an old guy to be the offensive coordinator. Get me an old guy to be the defensive coordinator. Bring Frank Reich back to be the offensive coordinator. Get an old grizzled defensive coordinator. That's all I want. Again, I won't do the Epstein Island analogy again, but that's what I was aiming for, Casino. So on that note, this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. Next week, we'll be back to talk about all the divisional games. We'll talk about the stuff that we did not get to on this episode, and we'll also start talking NBA, NHL. Yeah, this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. Anything else to say before you go on our last episode?
Yeah, I'm going to go. That's it. I'm leaving. Bye.
Adios.